What's up, everybody? Welcome to Common Sense, the podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with a good friend of mine that I've been twisting his arm to come on here for a little while. He kept telling me, like, man, I was waiting for you to ask me, but then it was like hell getting him to, like, actually commit. But, you know, plumbers, they're busy and shit, literally. Anyways, today for you guys, I got my good friend Connor Scribner here. Connor and I, we've shared the competitive space for quite a while. I would say at least 6 or 7 years. And he is one of the co-founders and presidents of Trinity Valley Plumbing. If you call Element Enterprises, this is one of the plumbers you could get out on your job sites. He created Trinity services to plumbing services and quickly transformed it into like one of the elite trade services, which I personally found very interesting, and I wanted to pick his brain. I mean, Connor and I had many lunches and had to start really diving in deep because I was fascinated with what he was doing. And you guys have all heard me talk about how important I think the trades are becoming as the next generation start to unfold. So you guys know this is something I'm passionate about, and I'm excited to bring his story to you guys because I think Connor really sees that and shares that same vision with the trades. So Connor's got over 15 years experience in the construction industry. I mean, he's really learned what it takes to build a successful business, face the trials, the hardships, and grow from his mistakes. And Connor owns everything. He really owns it, like, when it really comes down to it. And that's why Connor's someone I prefer to do business with, because at the end of the day, we are talking about construction. Construction's about solving problems. And in construction, there are problems. So I know Connor's very passionate about that and how you deal with those things. So I know he's committed to doing what he says he's going to do and kind of redefining the construction experience. So without further ado, y'all welcome Connor to the show. What's up, my man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, you're right. I have been putting you off for a while, but I think after being in business for about 7 months now, I couldn't say no anymore. And I kind of felt like when you twisted my arm that last time a month ago, it was like, hey, if you don't do this now, I'm going to start pulling business from you. So,
I mean, it's not like that.
It's good to be
I'm glad
here,
you thought that, though. I mean, if that's what it took, I mean, I definitely would have, thrown that idea out there maybe just to give that extra little twist.
I think I wanted to wait until I had a little bit more experience under my belt to come in and begin riffing on the trades. You said a lot of nice things about me. Full disclosure, I'm still learning the trades, right?
Yeah,
I'm still learning how to run the business.
But you know what? That's so common. I mean, you have like 15 years experience in construction, though. Like, you're not just learning like from ground zero. Like,
right.
Yeah, the plumbing game might be newer to you,
right,
and you're really diving deeper in it and trying to become an expert in that.
Right.
But when is it okay to talk about it? Because we all face those like challenges, whether it was your first day in sales or first time in PM. Like, when do you reach a point that you can comfortably talk about it? Like, you're always going to have those doubts of like, well, do I really know enough? Am I qualified to speak about this? Should I speak about this? That's exactly when you should be speaking about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I think like, and I'm sure you felt that throughout the years, throughout your journey.
Yeah.
You always question that, like whether it's a new client, you're going out to pitch something, but people feel that and see that. So, man, I'm telling you, you're ready. You're stepping into your own. You're doing your thing. You're doing it well. So I really felt it was important to get that out there to the people and let them see this. Because we need more Connors taking those steps in today's world.
I appreciate that.
You know what it's like in the GC side.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Especially in our space. It's almost impossible at times whenever, you're working with subcontractors that can't communicate, can't execute. They give you BS pricing. The estimates aren't detailed. how are you supposed to take that and bundle it up to your client
In a package.
in a package where you're telling your client you're the value add, you're the resource to them, whenever you're not even working with subs that are a resource to you, right?
It's a tough proposition. And to package that up, and you've got this scribble piece of paper and you're expecting like a formal bid to go out that you've got to put out.
Right.
But what you're getting is like a doctor's prescription note.
Right.
That might be half, we'll call it Spanglish.
Right.
It's probably half English, half Spanish, half whatever.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, that's super tough.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And we run into this all the time where you hire a GC to be that one point of contact. And we're supposed to be the experts and know a lot about everything, or at least a little about everything at the bare minimum.
Right.
So finding people that you can rely on and really having those partners in your circle of contacts and people that you rely on is huge.
Right.
And I think you saw that struggle,
Yeah.
especially on the trade side, which I love because I've bitched about this for years. Like, and don't get me wrong, we have some great trade partners at Element. We've got relationships that go back a long ways, but I do like the new and innovative approaches that some are taking, like yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. We need new growth, not just, I mean, the Titans have all been there forever, right?
Right.
And some of them are getting a lot older and wanting to retire. And like, are the young guns going to step up? Are these businesses going to dissolve?
Right.
Are new people going to come in? Are they going to know what to do? But again, it's all those little key things I think you just touched on of it's communication, number one.
Right.
Presenting a qualified bid at a qualified price, not overcommitting yourself, and being honest about that. I mean, like, so many of these guys, whether we're at the peak of the industry or we're down at the bottom or somewhere in between, when you're getting work as a sub, it's feast or famine, no matter whether we're up here or down here. I mean, It never changes. They'll tell you it changes.
Right.
And you probably face that now a lot.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
you feel the pressures no matter where we are, whether it's high or low.
Yeah.
Because either you need to be able to do more or you don't have enough. But if you overcommit yourself just because you're scared of what could come because you haven't prepared enough or you don't know how to deal with it, that's where these guys get themselves in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And they cost themselves a lot of money.
Right.
So I
Every
think
day.
it's cool. Is that something that like really weighed with you as you decided to make this step?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what weighed with me the most was just seeing the players that are in the industry right now and seeing, kind of like you mentioned, the ones that have been around for 10, 15 years. They've got their book of business. They've got their way of doing things. And they seem to be making money. But as a GC in my former role, we always dealt with issues with plumbers, HVAC companies, electricians, framing subs, drywall subs, you name it. I saw an opportunity to bridge communication and provide top tier communication in the trade space where, frankly, I just didn't see that being provided to our customers, whether they're owners or managers, investors, general contractors like yourself. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's been easy, because it's been really hard and it's been a journey every day. However, I think in the construction space, we hear things like it's all about communication and it's all about execution. And if you can conquer those basic tenets, and if you can follow up with Garrett when Garrett asks you for something, and you can communicate clearly to your client where you're at and working on a bid, or where you're at and executing a project, and hey, there's an obstacle here, and here's what we're doing to work around it. And I'm not just bringing you a problem, but I'm bringing you a solution after I tell you about the problem. That's what sets you apart. And, you know, it's been really fun for me because in the role I'm in right now, I'm co-founder, president, but honestly, like I'm whatever you want to call me. You know, I'm estimator, I'm dispatcher, I'm secretary, I'm accounts payable, accounts receivable,
product deliverer.
Yes. I mean, I ran
materials and supplies.
I ran material to Arlington this morning, and I love that though, and it gets my adrenaline running every time I get to do it because I get to get out in the field and get my hands on the project we're working on. So, what's been really fun for me is to get back into the weeds and to do what I feel like is, you know, my core skill set, which is being an account manager. And you can relate to that. And once you're doing that account management role and you've got your hands in production, you've got your hands in business development, you've got your hands in working with the payables team, like the game just slows down for you, especially if you have that skill set, you know? So like, it's been a blast to just jump into this role. And I want to go back to what I said. Like, there's nothing easy about what we're doing though. It's a challenge every day. There's sleepless nights for sure. Entrepreneurship has been a blessing and a curse, and all these things all at the same time. I can't believe we're 7 months in, and it's been a blast. So I'm just thankful to be where we're at, thankful to be working with the clients we're working with right now, and excited to see what's in front of us.
And I think that speaks a lot about what you're doing and how you've approached it, because it's not easy to break the veil, even with a GC as a new sub, unless you're just a reckless GC that is going to try anybody and everybody out because you're trying to be the bottom dollar and this and that. It kind of really goes back to what your values are, what your core principles are, and how you operate as a company. You know, so for someone like Connor to, you know, reach out, actually, I think we reached out to him in all honesty because
it was Zelder.
It was Zelder that mentioned you. Yeah, Graham. Shout out to Graham Zelder, great dude. He knew I had some projects coming up and that I had some issues that I needed to resolve. And he was like, hey man, like I'm like, Connor from Matrix? And he's like, yeah, Connor from Matrix. I was like, okay, cool. Let me give him a call. He sent me your contact. We got you guys signed up and gave you the opportunity to bid on some projects. And I mean, lo and behold, you guys were right in line. I mean, coming out the gate as that new of a company, that's huge.
Yeah.
And then you guys did what you said you were going to do. You communicated well, you executed well, you kept our client informed and kept a comfort level with them. And I didn't get the calls of like, who's the new Joe Blow out here on the job site?
Right.
Because I mean, we've used the same people for so long. And that was enough for me right there. Like just seeing that. And, you know, we put you to work on some very high-end projects real quickly, and you guys knocked them out of the park. So kudos to you. I think that is one of those areas where you said, like, when you're getting into your zone and you're able to do all those things and you've seen all those different parts, like, then the job becomes exciting again.
Yeah.
You know you're adding true value.
Right.
And you're not just participating in the game that it is.
Right.
And so few people, I feel like, do a good job of communicating that. Like, we all say we want to be good communicators. And I mean, like, guilty myself. Like, I know where I can be better. I know what plans we have to get better in certain things like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can't do it each day and or get better. You know, you got to put those things in motion, because you're being hired as a GC to manage something that they don't have the bandwidth, the time, or the resources to deal with.
Right.
You got to be that person. So now you're communicating, and that could be to 2 people or it could be to 20 people. And how well you do that and manage that throughout matters. So that really starts, when you start nailing that down, it really nails down to these subs. Mm-hmm. And like you said early on, like trades are tough because you guys are balancing service calls, you're balancing multiple jobs for multiple GCs, and whether you're just doing residential or you're doing residential and multifamily.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a juggling act. How have you managed to set a standard for this, and how are you managing that as you take on this new venture?
It's a puzzle every day, right? Me and my team were talking about that this morning. And that's kind of what's fun about it too, right? Because in my position, I'm trying to figure out how can I move things around in the schedule to produce the most revenue in a given week, and be as efficient as possible in each of our vehicles that we have on the road right now. And how can I service the most clients possible? And at the same time, how can I not wear the team out to where they're going to come back to work the next day? Because these guys work their butts off. I mean, they put in the hours, and in a small company like ours,
and it's like 100 degrees outside now for those of you not in Texas.
And we're plumbers, right? So the working environment isn't always great. You know, it's oftentimes in a tunnel,
literally knee deep in shit.
Literally playing in it, right? So it's a challenge to manage these things for sure. It's a constant adjustment. You know, so it's really difficult from my perspective, based on my experience, to be in this business if you don't thrive on being able to pivot and to at the same time be able to pick up the phone and have a candid or transparent conversation with a client. Happened to me this morning. We're on a bid project that's a 2-week project right now. My team is completely tied up across DFW. I've got a team member that's traveling out of town this evening for an overnight install tonight in Houston, and so we're limited on resources today. Well, last night we had an emergency call come in, 10 o'clock, from another GC. The call came in from this GC, and he's basically playing switchboard operator with the property manager that's having the issue. He finally connects me with her by 10:30. I'm talking to her. I get a team member out late last night to look at it, and I realized we can't make the repair last night, so we had to pivot and make the repair first thing this morning. Well, that impacted production this morning on my bid project where we have a standing schedule. Luckily, the client that I'm working with is extremely gracious, and what's most important to her is communication, right? So she was my first call this morning, and I just said, hey, here's what's happened. You know, it's not that you're not my priority today. It's that this emergency came up last night. Is it okay if we make a change in our schedule? We'll be to you 4 or 5 hours later today than expected. And if the guys go into after hours tonight, we're not going to charge you for after hours rate because this isn't your fault. It's ours, you know? So I think it's just getting back to your question. It's constantly being ready to pivot, almost expecting it, right?
But that communication part is key, like, and I don't want to lose sight of that because I have talked about this so much. Like, a lot of people in the younger generations are scared to death to make that difficult phone call. That wasn't an easy phone call for you to make. Like, you went to bed dealing with an emergency, worried about how you were going to deal with everything tomorrow,
right,
knowing that you now had this other major thing that you had to finish handling, yet it's altering your other main project.
Right.
That's a difficult phone call to make, to call them and have that candid conversation and tell them. Because they could have also said, like, hey, Connor, sorry, not my problem.
Right.
Then what are you doing? Now you're back to the drawing board figuring some more shit out, right? But when you take the initiative to make those calls and not just send the bullshit text message or the bullshit email, that goes 1,000 times further. And it shows that you're on top of it and that you care and that you're willing to have that difficult conversation with them. I think that is crucial in any business.
I think you can relate to this, though, like being in a sales position. I leverage those conversations to build trust. I know that
you should, absolutely.
I know that if I can be proactive and I can have that combo with confidence and I can deliver on what I say I'm going to do as a solution, that's going to build more trust and more loyalty to the brand.
Absolutely.
So, yes, it's difficult to have, but once you get to a point in your career in which you know how to navigate those conversations, it really becomes another tool in your tool belt with building relationships.
Do you think we both just feel this way, though, because we have a pretty vast sales background?
Probably.
And we had to do the cold calling and the door knocking type stuff?
Probably.
I mean, because, making that phone call to me, and while you're sitting here saying this, I'm like, that's not as bad as having to go knock on a door, chase a fire, cold call somebody that you don't know from Tom or Adam, like, you're just randomly but hey, I know who you are, I looked you up on social. And
but I feel like if you can stare down your client in that conversation and you can have that conversation successfully, what door can you not go knock on?
Right. I agree 100%. I'm just curious, like, if you thought like that was mainly because of our experience there.
Yeah.
Which it definitely has to play a role.
For sure. I mean, there's a level of comfort there.
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's back up a little bit here. Like, we've gotten pretty deep right out the gate here, which I know hopefully that grabs some more people's attention because we're not just giving you a whole bunch of backstory and all that. But tell everybody, for those that don't know anything about Connor, tell everybody a little bit about where you grew up, what you went to school for, like kind of where you got started in the industry, and give us your little elevator pitch on that.
Grew up in Abilene, Texas. Went to Abilene High School, graduated in 2008. After high school, I went to Texas Tech University, studied probably 4 or 5 different things by the time I left.
Basket weaving being number one.
Yeah, spent a lot of time doing what a lot of people in Lubbock do, and that's drinking.
What do people do in Lubbock? I don't know. I mean, I have all these Texas Tech friends on here that love this.
They all know what happens in Lubbock. There's not a lot to do out there but drink and make bad decisions. Right?
I thought you guys just chased tumbleweeds.
Yeah. I was at Tech for 5 years, studied communications ultimately, which is what I left Tech with. Left Tech in 2013. From 2014 and 2015, I spent a little over 6 months traveling Southeast Asia and Australia. And at the time, I was wanting to go into working in the mission field, and I was wanting to go work for a nonprofit in Southeast Asia.
All right, whoa. We got to stop here. Because I know this part about your story, and I think it's really interesting. So where did we go from partying balls at Texas Tech to I'm going to travel and see the world and go to Australia and Asia, and now I want to do mission trips?
Okay. By the time I left Tech, I had completely lost touch with who I was. Like, I had just spent the last 3 years of my college life at the frat house, at every party imaginable, not going to class, not applying myself whatsoever. And when the lights came on and it was time to grow up, I looked up and I had no clue who I was, what I was doing.
Right on.
So I was put in touch with some people in Nashville, Tennessee. And I had the opportunity to go to a place called Narrowgate, which was a Christian discipleship school. And I was there for 6 months. While I was there, I didn't have a cell phone or access to the internet. And all we did was study the Word and went hiking. And this place, Narrowgate, is on this awesome 12-acre ranch outside of Franklin, Tennessee, south of Nashville. And so while I was there, I was focusing on what's my plan. I was 24, 25 at the time, graduated after 5 years at Tech, so I got a late start, right? And I'm trying to figure out what am I doing next. And the plan was to come back to Texas all along. My family had moved to Dallas by then. I have an older sister who had relocated here, so we were no longer in Abilene. I was planning to come back to DFW. While I was there, I didn't know this at the time, but one of the guys that was there with me, that was mentoring me, was my future brother-in-law. So his younger sister came to visit him. I met her, and that's my wife. We've been married 10 years now. And so Skylar and I, we hit it off, and we started talking on Facebook as soon as I was leaving Narrowgate. And we were both in touch with someone that was doing a mission program in Australia, okay? And so I think where I was at in life is like I was looking for something meaningful, and I was just like, I wasn't quite ready to join the working world. Like I had big dreams, but I was like, if there's ever a time to travel, if there's ever a time to go do something crazy, it's now.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Skylar about it, and Skylar had worked with these people in the past, and she had a relationship there. And so what we wound up doing is I went to Australia for about 3 months, and I was mentored by some of these people that were starting this nonprofit. And then from there, we went to Southeast Asia, and we spent another 3 months there. And Skylar met me in Southeast Asia. And so we had a crash course on like how to communicate before we were even married, because we were on the other side of the globe together for almost 100 days, right? And it was a crazy, crazy adventure. Whenever I flew from Australia to Southeast Asia, I canceled my flight from Singapore to Cambodia, and I decided to book a train from Singapore through Malaysia to Thailand all the way into Cambodia. And it was something crazy, like a 30-hour train ride. And you stopped at every village along the way. And so like there was no sleeping on this train. It was so rough. I'm pretty sure it was made of wood. Anyways, Skylar and I were there for 3 months. And like I just still have these crazy vivid memories of us in coffee shops talking about like, okay, if we don't wind up doing this long term and working with this nonprofit, what are we going to do when we go home? And first and foremost, we knew we wanted to get married. And so it was a foregone conclusion that we needed to come back to DFW because I needed to meet her mom and dad.
Yeah.
I needed to ask if I could marry her first.
I just took your daughter halfway around the world, and we've been hanging out for a while. I think we're getting married.
Yeah, they give me a hard time about that. Her dad, I don't think loved that, but I think he's happy with how things have panned out, But anyways, in these coffee shops, we would dream about what do we want to do with our life. And that's like really when my construction dreams began. And it's really cool looking back at that 11, 12 years ago now. I picked up a magazine while I was over there, and it was a magazine from, some big outlet, and it was about shipping container homes and how, those are going to be the thing of the future, right? And like I've still got this dream. I want to build a house out of shipping containers, whether it's for me, whether it's a back house, whether it's just like a spec home I do in the future.
Yeah.
Investment property rental.
I want to do the same thing, like as a cabin or something,
right,
like out in the woods.
Right.
That would be super cool.
And like that just kind of like it opened up like my inner child almost.
Yeah.
Because like I grew up with Legos in my hands, you know. And I grew up in construction, and I grew up in it not knowing it was my passion, But I can go back and think about like playing with Legos, following instruction sets, like laying it all out perfectly before I put it all together. And like that was kind of like the inception of my passion for building, right? And so anyways, we're in these coffee shops, and we're talking about like these businesses we want to build. We're talking about having a design and build construction company someday. And it's been really, really cool to see like how God is like taking this experience that we had. And it was almost like over the last 10 years, I didn't know like where we were at in the process of those dreams, you know, because we got back to town, we got married, there's bills.
Got caught up in life.
Kids, you got caught up in life, there's commitments, relationships, you name it, all the things that you get busy with. And then something that's been really sweet about starting Trinity Valley is like looking back and being like, wow, we dreamed about this 10, 11, 12 years ago, and like look at what's happening now, you know? So it's like the last 10 years weren't for nothing, you know? There was meaning in all of it. It was just like there's purpose in all of it, whether it was just experiences being gained in our industry or, you know, being mentored, being put in a position where
meeting the right people,
building the network, right, doing all that. So, anyways, we get back from being abroad. The nonprofit doesn't get its funding, and door gets closed there. And it's like, okay, well, that was a fun experience. Let's go home. Let's get married. Let's get a job, and let's start grinding. So we come home. I get her dad's blessing to marry Skylar. We get married pretty quick. June of 2015. Just celebrated 10 years.
Congratulations.
Couple weeks ago. Thank you. And then we start working. And I was connected with someone that was in the supplier world in multifamily. And I started working for a company that was a upstart company. And we were selling light fixtures, door hardware, plumbing fixtures, and we were sourcing all of it from China. And so what we were selling to GCs, and we would provide them and source for them domestic materials at the beginning of the renovation project. And then our sale and our value add was, hey, by month 3, month 4, month 5, we're going to have materials brought in at a much less price to you, and we're going to put them in shipping containers, and we're going to have them stocked on your job sites ready to go. I was there for a couple years. I was a project manager over there. Looking back, like, it was an awesome experience. Just a great way to get introduced to multifamily.
Yeah.
But like looking back, like, I'm sure you're just thinking this right now. That's a really tough business model in renovations in multifamily, because you never know when the spigot's going to get turned off to a job, right?
It is, but I think timing plays an important role too. I mean, you were adding value. You had a good product. You were able to, solve a problem. And fortunate for you, you missed the 2008 shitstorm.
Right.
And then everything else prior to COVID was just straight rocket ship up. So
right.
Everybody was buying properties. Everybody was renovating. Money was coming fast and furious. So,
right.
I mean, timing can be everything.
Yeah, for sure. And it was. I was there for a few years, and kind of got to a point where I was like, I want to get more hands-on construction experience, and I want to do something that's a little more high character, like just like custom, right?
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity then to go work with a custom home builder in Fort Worth, and that was the coolest job I think I've ever had, just because of the projects that we did. Like, I'm talking about custom home renovations over in Tanglewood, Fort Worth, Rivercrest, Country Club, Colonial.
Real cool, high end.
No budget. Like,
bringing in architects and designers from all over.
We did one thing. Right by Colonial Country Club for someone that is a movie director out of Hollywood, and he allowed us to come in and demo his entire basement, and then we built him a custom. First of all, for
those of you that don't know, he just said basement in Texas.
There is
That's
a basement.
not normal. Like,
there's a basement.
For all of you in the Midwest and up north, like, that's super common. In Texas, no, they don't do basements. They put pools in their backyard.
That's right. Well, this guy had a basement and a pool. So anyways, we did a custom movie theater for him so he could view his own films and preview them before sending them back to the West Coast. That was the coolest job we ever did.
Badass.
Yeah, so that was fun, but then Skylar got pregnant, and I was not making a lot of money. And like I was a superintendent, project manager for this company in Fort Worth, and like
gaining experience.
Didn't have benefits, right? So I had to go find something that was going to take care of us, right? So she got pregnant with our first kiddo. In 2017, our daughter was born in February of 18. And so January of 2018, I reconnected with somebody that I met on one of my jobs whenever I was that supplier selling light fixtures and plumbing fixtures. And that was the guys over at Matrix. And so I called them, and I called one of my friends, Eric Crossland. I'm not sure if you know him. He was there at the time.
Maybe if I saw him. His name doesn't ring a bell. But
so Eric was there, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting back into multifamily in a sales role. Do you know of anything? And he's like, well, let me call somebody real quick. And he's like, how about you come to our office tonight? And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And later that night, like I was walking out of the office and had a new job offer, and future looked bright, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of like was my reintroduction back into multifamily, but as a GC. I spent from 2018 to mid last year working at Matrix Construction here in Dallas. I oversaw our operations for the company in my latest position. I was mentored by a couple of great guys over there for the whole time I was there.
A lot of great dudes over at Matrix. We're going to have one of them on the show soon, so you guys...
You gotta.
Those of you that don't know Jason Kelly, I'm calling him out so that he's even further pot committed, but he said he's coming on.
Have to share this clip with him.
Yeah.
So I spent 6.5 years at Matrix, and I got to do everything from account management up to overseeing our account management team across the state. And while I was there, it was during that time that you're talking about where it was just that rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
COVID was tough, obviously, but the years following, the slowdown came.
100-year freeze. I mean, all these things that were really terrible for GCs.
I want to go back to that in a second, because like that's where like my eyes kind of caught plumbing, and I got my interest. But anyways, I was there for 6.5 years. Did a lot of special things there. Met a lot of special people. Made a lot of special relationships in the industry, whether they're vendor partners, clients, customers, owners, managers, you name it. You know how it is. So it was a blessing to have that opportunity to do that. And so going back to what I just said, during that crazy freeze, Matrix had a plumbing company in-house. It was really, really cool how this transpired. But overnight, our GC company shifted from a GC firm to a plumbing contractor, because all of our clients, which you were the same with all of yours, had all of their power shut down for days, and they had frozen pipes, whether they were copper, PEX, PVC, CPVC.
You had the hookup on shark bites from China.
They were all priming to explode when it thawed, right? And so we had about a 3-day window where it was going to stay below 28 degrees. And so our leadership team executed so well during that weekend going into that following week, because we were able to source plumbing parts from the West Coast, which were already out of stock in Texas because of what was happening. And one of our amazing owners from Matrix drove these parts all the way from California to Dallas. Like, he probably had like $80,000 in the van in fittings and copper, right? And our entire company shifted into emergency response mode. And we had, I want to say, 8 to 10 teams of people out fielding calls, making repairs. And the way we would do that is we would have a licensed plumber with an apprentice with like a renovation tech, all buddied up together so they could go out, be each other's eyes and ears, allow the journeyman or the licensed plumber to make a repair. And then you'd have, say, a helper going in front of them, cutting sheetrock if needed, doing any kind of demo. And then I had the opportunity during that to stay behind at headquarters and get on the whiteboard and receive all the phone calls.
I mean, that kind of pivot in a moment like that is so crucial. Like, that shows you how aligned everybody was there at Matrix at that time to have the foresight, have the connections, and to pull something off like that. I mean, it's honestly truly impressive.
It was fun. Honestly, it was a adrenaline rush. I didn't see my family for 5 days. We were just sleeping at the office all week. And there were so many guys that were just worn out by the end of that week from everything they did. But it was a blast. And once, like, you know what it's like chasing storms? You know, there is an adrenaline rush that comes with it. And speaking for me personally, the most exciting part about that is whenever you field a call from a client that's in need and they're freaking out and they don't know who's going to help them, and you get to answer the call and you get to say, I got you. I'll be there in 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
Help is on the way. I mean, during that time, there weren't enough plumbers, obviously, in Dallas. So there was a lot of people that were being told, hey, we'll get to you when we can get to you, but it's probably going to be 3, 4, 5 days maybe. And depending on what other calls came in between then and 5 days from now, who knows if they would actually even get there.
I mean, you guys took a big chunk of a lot of people's business because of that foresight and how you all maneuvered and pulled that off. Like, without a doubt. Like, I can say that as one of y'all's competitors at the time.
Yeah,
like,
it was
y'all killed that.
It was cool. It was fun. So that just kind of opened my eyes to the trades, and I didn't know it then, but I knew, like, I think I knew deep within me that there was something there.
Yeah.
But at the time, I thought the rest of my career was going to be as a GC, you know. So it really wasn't until a few years later that I had the opportunity to explore this new venture that I was reminded of that experience and how pivotal that skill set is and that trade is for our country's infrastructure, you know? So going back to my story, I was at Matrix until last summer, had the opportunity to step away in July of last year. So coming up on a year of leaving Matrix. While I was trying to figure out what I'm doing next, I was also, you know, just constantly seeing articles all over the internet about private equity's interest in the trades. And I think we all know here there's a lack of tradesmen everywhere, whether it's HVAC, electricians, or plumbers.
There's a huge lack of this, and it's only going to get worse.
Right. You look at, you know, my generation, what we were predominantly taught in our homes and in our schools. It was to go to college, get a degree, become an accountant, become a salesman, get into business, go get your master's. And the trades just got left behind in my generation, you know? Right now we're looking at a deficit of...
Yours and mine.
A deficit of like 550,000 plumbers nationwide in the next 2 years. It's crazy. And so there's actually a trend right now, though, where applications for trade school and licensing is starting to vamp up. So I'm confident that you're going to see a spike in that in the next couple of years. But just the whole premise that I had in starting this business is there's a deficit here. There's an opportunity, and while no business is recession proof, I want to put myself in a position that is at least recession resistant, right? So I'm not worried about interest rates.
You got to have plumbing. I don't care what's going on.
Right.
If you're plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, those are three things you can't really live without.
And just going back to the emergency call I got last night in bed, there's a water main break. I don't care what it costs. Get someone out here and fix it. Yes, ma'am. We'll be there in an hour. And that happens every day. Every day, whether it's an in-ground leak, whether it's a above ground leak, whether it's a pinhole leak, whether it's a boiler repair and you've got hot water issues.
Dude, I don't know how you do that because, well, plumbing's a little easier. Like, I hate being called. I mean, I do it all the time. I won't say I hate. It's my least favorite thing to do is play leak detective. And I'm not talking about your standard leak of it's obviously that it's a plumbing leak or irrigation, something like that. But when you're dealing with an entire building structure and there's 20 different possibilities of what could be leaking, and trying to narrow that down when I'm not a building envelope specialist. That dude. I mean, granted, we have a lot of amazing technology to help with those things now.
Yeah, right.
But most people don't want to pay for that out the gate.
Right.
They want to take stabs in the dark and hope that you guess right early on. And that's a bad position to be in unless it's a client you really have a relationship with and that you really trust and they really trust you.
Right.
And even in that position, it's 50-50 of whether or not I go, okay, I think the chances are really high that it's this or this.
Yeah.
And we can do this, but it might also be these things.
Right.
Where there's other times where I'm like, I don't have a clue. Like, it could be any one of these 10 things.
Right.
And
and then you're just
who wants to make the call on that? Because you're just open checkbook at that point, and somebody's going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Whether it's the management company, the owner, somebody.
Luckily, I haven't had a situation like that yet.
Not in plumbing. It's pretty straightforward. Here's what it's going to cost to come out and diagnose it or test.
No, but I'm saying, like, luckily I haven't had a situation in which it's, hey, Connor, there's a leak, but we don't know where it is. Every leak that has been brought to us.
Not even as a GC?
No.
That's weird.
No. So in the last 7 months of running this business, there's been a few goose chases we've been on. And that kind of goes back to what we talked about first with communication, right? Of like, hey, I'll come out and I'll look for it, but I can't guarantee I'm going to find it. And there's a cost for us to do this investigation, right? But I'll cut you the best deal I can. I won't take advantage of you. I'm only going to bill you for labor. And let's hope we find it, right? And every time we've been able to find it. And it's only taken a day at most, There's some pretty cool equipment and toys out there that are pretty fun to buy for that kind of stuff. That goes
like the building that actually had 2 different lines coming into it, and we thought we had the building shut down and drained down that some other plumber did, and we had to come find where the other line came in.
That's right, we did that.
That was a fun one.
That one took 2 days.
Yeah.
We found it.
Found it.
In those situations though, like, that's where I totally delegate. Like, let me be clear, I'm not the plumber. Right?
Yeah, let me get the expert in here.
So we've got an amazing team of one master and several journeymen that are very close to having their master license. And like, it's my joy to work with these guys because they're so good at what they do. Like, I'm impressed by them every day.
Well, and you can tell they enjoy working with each other and with you.
Yeah,
like
they're a tight-knit group.
Every
sure.
job site I've shown up on that you guys are out on, like, you can see that. Like,
yeah, thanks.
These guys don't not like working with each other or hate their job, even when they're knee deep in shit. It's mind blowing.
Which is hard, you know. It's hard keeping tradesmen and like just content because they work in really hard conditions.
What do you think was maybe some of the biggest challenges or hurdles you had to face early on?
Can I tell you what I thought would be mine and what they actually are? Okay. When we started, I was terrified that the phone would not ever ring. I thought that revenue was going to be an absolute problem.
He still thinks this, y'all.
I do. I do.
He still has those moments. We have these conversations. That doesn't change right out the gates.
That's right. That's right. But I thought revenue would be the problem. And I thought there's not going to be enough work. People aren't going to want to work with me. People aren't going to work with us. And what I've quickly learned is the problem. I wouldn't say the problem. I would say the challenge. It's always people, you know, whether it's your own personal team that you're working with and you're learning to communicate with, or it's your clients or your vendors, your suppliers. Like, it's relationships. Like, that's the challenge. And I'm challenged by that every day, you know. And I think just being in a leadership position, like, it's humbling because, like, when you're not in a leadership position, you view leadership as this thing that you arrive at, right? Mm-hmm. And once you arrive, everything's just, you've got your day made in the shade, right? And what I've learned is, like, once you actually arrive in that, like, that's when the real work begins, you know? There's no one to pat you on the back. There's no one to tell you good job.
No,
you know?
Not when you're the leader.
And so, like, that's super challenging. And, you know, I just say, like, rallying a team of individuals around a cause and casting a vision for people that come from different backgrounds, different educations, and bringing them to the same level to where they hopefully see the vision for the business and the opportunity to buy in and to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Like, that's the challenge. And I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to them. We talk about this openly at Trinity. We talk a lot about communication, like you and I are doing today, and, like, even more so, we talk about that internally. Yeah, because we pride ourselves on, hey, we're going to communicate with our clients better than our competitors do. If we're going to say that, we have to communicate with each other better than others do, right? So, and I'll be the first to admit, I fail in that every day, you know?
I was just going to ask, how do you handle that internally? Because I tell our project managers this all the time, and sometimes I think it goes in one ear and out the other. Fortunately, now we have a really good group of PMs right now that are solid. They're absolute studs.
Yeah.
These guys are badasses. But I tell them all the time, like, I'm selling what you do. Mm-hmm. Like, you managing this job is what we actually sell. Like, we don't actually, I mean, yes, we do construction. We don't really sell construction. We sell the management of construction to a degree. And I tell them all the time, and it's those communication lapses where a lot of times there's a problem.
Right.
They want to fix it.
Right.
All for that. But please call me or whatever sales guy's job you're working on and tell them about the problem. Tell them the solution you have and what you're going to do to fix it. Because I'll be damned, every time you try to be Superman and you try to fix it before anybody else finds out,
Right.
There's that porter that wants to be the maintenance lead out there, or somebody that walks by and sees it, and guess what? That goes straight up the corporate ladder.
Right.
And guess what? Now I'm getting the phone call, and you haven't bothered to take the time to tell me about said problem. Now I got to tell client, hold on, let me call you right back. Let me get to the bottom of this.
Right.
Whereas if you call me when the shit happens and say, hey, boss man, this is what's going on the job site. I already got a plan. Guys are going to do this, X, Y, Z. This is what's going to happen. Cool, got you. I got your back. Then client calls because porter called and said, it's all coming down. They can't do this right. It's all messed up. These guys are over here scratching their heads, blah, 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 blah. Hey, man, no, it's not quite the case. Let me tell you what's actually going on. So, yes, they had this little hiccup. This is the problem. This is how we're resolving it. Parts or whatever will be here in 45 minutes. Guys have it. This isn't going to put us behind. This is going to be no extra cost to you. Yada, yada, yada. And guess what? Whole thing diverted. Right. But if they skip any of those little things, even internally communicating, that chain just starts snowballing.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, I saw that. We'll gladly touch base with you tomorrow on that, B. Thank you for listening. I told you he'd be on here.
That's funny.
Mutual client of ours. So, before I dive into my next question, I haven't done this in a while, but I need to tonight because this is really damn good. And I know Biz has already had these and he already told me. So a lot of times you guys want to know what we're drinking, what we're smoking. I'm drinking coffee and water. Connor's drinking water. Connor is smoking the Luciano Panda Domino. You guys all heard me talk about that cigar. Phenomenal cigar. What do you think about it?
Smooth. I like
Smooth,
it.
right?
Yeah, it's a good one.
The first cigar that I was smoking when we started the show was the Principal Cochon Volant by Darren Chaffee. Excellent cigar. You guys heard me talk about this. Now this is my first time smoking this. So this is Nelson's new private collection. This is extra aged. I believe this is the first time Nelson's ever made these available to the public. Like, this is what he rolls and ages to personally smoke himself. This is Nelson Alfonso's cigar. ICC has these. I don't know if they still do. I bought a box when I saw them in there. Even came with this cool little Nelson Alfonso ashtray that came with it. So I don't know if they still have them. You guys check. Get online, look at ICC, see if they still got them. I don't know if they do or don't. But this is a phenomenal smoke. I don't know what I would compare this to in his line.
It's kind of like if an anime and a bandolier on that kid.
Yeah, it's got way more depth to it. And it's a little more bolder than your typical Atabey.
Correct. But it's got that little bit.
It's got that taste of a Ritos though, a little bit, but it's so much bolder and stronger. So, and I don't want to say strong or bold like in a bad way, but man, with the coffee and everything, this is phenomenal cigar. So if you guys do ever get a chance and you like the other cigar suggestions I've put out in the past, or your palate matches mine based on what I've told you guys about that we've smoked on the show, I'm gonna put this up there right next to the Black Ritos. Like this is up there for sure. Like, I still personally think, and I just started this, so I may change my mind, but this is up there with the Black Ritos. And that Domino Panda is in my top 5 too. So,
I love it.
Like,
that's a good one.
That's definitely up there for people. So in the early days, Connor, were there any like pivotal moments or times when mentors really shined a light on something for you, or that was really pivotal for you in this journey? Because I've heard you mention mentors a couple of times. And everybody always says, well, how do I find the mentor? How do I do this? How do I put myself in position for this? And you've gone on this journey since college where it sounds like you consistently put yourself in positions and either made relationships to be mentored, or you happened upon mentors.
Yeah.
Or you sparked the interest of someone who wanted to mentor you.
Yeah, I think I think my parents instilled that in me, of always looking for people to mentor you in life, whatever season you're in. So I think also, like, I've just been aware of my own shortcomings over the last, say, 15 years. And I'm like, okay, if I want to be the man that I really want to be, and I want to be this end product for my wife, for my kids, for my grandkids someday, like, I've got to surround myself with men and women that are going to sharpen me, and are going to challenge me, because I'm not the smartest tool in the tool shed, that's for sure. I think my best attribute is I'm a hard worker and I put in the time, but outside of that, like, I need smart people surrounding me at all times. So I'd just say, like, I don't know if there's been like a pivotal moment, but there has been a group of 3 guys that have walked through this journey with me over the last year, all in different capacities.
Yeah.
And that's just been really cool to lean into those relationships and to be aware of, like, okay, you have the skill set, you have the ability to start the business, but do you have the humility to go and ask for help? And you've proven that you might have the right instincts, but is the timing on your instincts correct? And so it's great to have those sounding boards, right? So I love having mentor relationships. I think they're invaluable. I'm hoping to just continue to build those types of relationships. And something that's just, like, been really eye-opening to me in this whole journey is, like, the power of the network, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, before we went and started this business, I wasn't tapped into my network like I could have been. And mainly because it was like I was scared to ask for help, and so, like, last summer, whenever I was trying to figure out what I was doing next, I started to do that because I was vulnerable. And I was scared to start this business. I was scared to step out on my own, and I thought I could make it, but I wasn't sure, and so just having wise men in my corner with, varying backgrounds, encourage me and either, shift my focus or help me see something from a different perspective. That's priceless, and I love all those guys that I meet with, and try to meet with them as often as possible, and definitely would not be where I'm at, and our business would not be where it's at without their voices.
I mean, that's awesome, man. And I think that's a key thing you said there, being humble and being able to ask for help. That's not necessarily a sign of weakness, and I think a lot, especially men, have a real hard time saying, hey, I really need help with this, and finding the person to go ask for help in those situations.
Right.
So I think if you can create those relationships within your inner circle and find those people that you can go to and you can ask, and like you said, I'm sitting here thinking about what you just said about not really utilizing your network as much. And, that I can apply that, whether you want to apply that to Element,
right, or
you want to apply that to the podcast. Early on in the podcast, it was like pulling teeth to get guests almost. Like, you're new,
Right.
Don't know what you're doing. You're trying a new thing out. Fortunately, I had a lot of great friends. I have a lot of great connections, but I still wasn't really tapping into that a lot, you know, and early on, and I didn't want to just fall back on multifamily at first. And maybe that was a little bit of a mistake. Maybe it wasn't. I don't think it was, because it's opened up so many more doors for me. Mm-hmm. It's opened so many more relationships and connections and networking possibilities and just more tools in my belt than I ever imagined.
Yeah.
But there is a whole good another set of people that I've barely touched when it comes to podcasting and multifamily.
Right.
And now everybody's trying to do a podcast in multifamily. It's mind-blowing. They did a whole booth about it at TAA this year.
How was TAA?
Oh, I don't want to dog them terribly, but TA was not good. I think the industry spoke well on that this year.
Not a great turnout?
No, they got about half the turnout that they typically do. The ones that have been making leaps and bounds getting better turnouts is the AAGD and the Fort Worth Apartment Association. They have been listening to the feedback given by the members and the people on the committees and everybody involved, and they are making changes that I do feel are making the associations a lot better.
That's cool.
TAA, I feel like, has a way to go.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a ways to go. They redesigned the trade floor layout this year. It was terrible. I mean, I put it this way to you. You ever worked one of those jobs where the fancy designer comes in and you're doing a clubhouse and the amenity centers, and this designer comes in and has all these grand ideas and specs out all this crazy ass material that all looks cool as shit, and they knew what the budget was, but they have no idea what all these materials cost. Right. And what the labor to install these specialty materials is.
Right.
And you're like, this isn't functional. This doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
That's what the trade floor felt like at the trade show for TAA.
I got you.
Everything was very appealing to the eye. They had food trucks. The layout was real cool, but the people on the perimeter were facing a wall. Had about 8 feet between them and the wall. I would have been real mad if I got put in one of those booths. If you were on the grid, nothing was in the normal aisles like it normally is, where you have the all from 100 to however many hundreds of aisles. This year they were like on angles. So even if you knew, like, hey, Trinity Valley's at booth 749, you start walking till you hit 700s, and you start hitting, and it's doing this throughout the show. That they can't find you, and they're looking for you. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So I just think there was a lot of things like that really took that down a notch this year.
I got you.
But hopefully they'll get it figured out.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah. With your mentors and how you've been changing things, how are you looking at addressing some of these issues? Like you said, there's a huge shortage in plumbers. How are you planning to continue your growth in dealing with this shortage and bringing on the right talent?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question right now. We're at a point where we're ready to scale, and we're ready to add the next vehicle right now. We've got 3 vehicles on the road right now. And it's all about finding the right guy, right? So what we've been able to do so far is pull on our network of plumbers that we know, that we trust, that we've either worked with or others have worked with, and brought them in. So we're now like we're at that next layer where we're about to
recruiting.
We're about to bring an insider in, and I'm having lunch with them next week. Me and my partner Brian are, and I'm excited about this hire, but also a little anxious about it because we've got a really special culture, you know, and last thing you want to do is bring someone in that could impact that in a negative way, you know. So I'm trying to be very unemotional about the hire and not make it because we're crazy busy and we've got to add a body. I want to do it because it's the right individual that's going to bring that same level of excellence that you speak to about our jobs, and that's going to get another compliment from someone like you of when you go to your next job site and you see him and you say, hey man, great job. That's a great recruit right there. So it's challenging. Something we're doing is like, I'm guaranteeing hours right now for our guys. Which means if for some reason they don't get X amount of hours in a pay period, the company covers it. We're in 7 months, 7th month of operations right now. I haven't had to do that yet. So I'm using that as kind of like a benefit of like, hey, if you're gonna come roll with us and join this team, I can guarantee your pay. You know, so we've been blessed to be as busy as we have been, and for me to not have to use that yet. But as you add someone new, your bandwidth increases dramatically, right? Yeah. So I can see, say 30 days from now, if we have this new employee, I could see an opportunity where maybe over the next 30, 60 days, he might not be fully utilized. He might only work 20 hours a week, but he'll get paid like he's working 40, right? So I've got to go sell into that, you know, and I've got to go create enough opportunity for that person to then be fully leveraged, you know. So I'd say that, and then as we go out and we recruit more, like I'm really leveraging the newness of this business to the guys, you know, like I'm looking for guys that want to be part of something and they don't just want to work somewhere, you know. I'd like to think we're building an elite trade service and we're just getting started, and like our master plumber is, you know, anywhere from 12 to 18 months away from stepping away, and there's going to be an opportunity for one of our journeymen that's about to be a master to step into his shoes, and that's a huge opportunity for that individual that takes that on. And we've got several guys right now that are interested in that, and it's kind of cool because you see them competing, you know, in a healthy way, you know, because they want to be that guy. And then because we're so small and because we're so lean, like there's going to be an opportunity for one of our plumbers that has been plumbing for 20 plus years to step into more of an account manager role. And he's looking for an opportunity to utilize a sales skill set that he was born with, that he utilizes as a plumber, but he wants the opportunity to go out and do something different, you know? So I'm trying to use this as a platform to where it's like, hey, what do you guys want to do? Because I want to help each of you become the best version of yourself, right? So,
True sign of a great leader right there, man.
If that is for you to become a master, awesome. Let's work towards that. If that's for you to step into a sales role, that's going to hurt our production, but that's awesome. Let's work towards that, right? And this guy I'm talking about, like, he was gifted with the best mouthpiece in the world. And you think about it, he knows plumbing, he knows production, he knows how to estimate plumbing. He's born around plumbing. He's done it for 20 years. Who better than to go out and to scope a job? He might not have the account manager skills that, say, you and I have, but he wants to work towards those things. Yeah. You know? And so, like, we're having, I'm having breakfast with him once a month right now just to kind of talk about, like, okay, 12 months from now, you want to step into this role. This is what that looks like. This is what your day would look like. This is, This is how you structure your day. This is how you're going to spend your time going out and farming new business. And he's thrilled about it, you know. And then there's other guys that want to be put in a position to mentor others, right? And so we've got an apprentice right now who came to us from the Marines, and he had never plumbed a day in his life. But what he knew is that if he invested his time and energy into this trade, that in a couple of years he would be licensed, he would have job security for life, and he would be stepping into a market in which the labor force is lacking, right?
Yeah.
And so this guy, he has the best attitude in the world. He's so fun to work with. He is just like taking life by the horns. And like I was talking to one of our journeymen on the way over here today, and he was on an install with this apprentice, and the journeyman was just bragging on the apprentice and how great he was doing. And the journeyman was like, I didn't even touch my tools today. He did all of it. And I tested all this stuff, of course, to make sure it was fully functional, operational, no leaks, etc. But he was like, he's knocking it out of the park, you know? So it's cool to be in a position in which you're allowing those opportunities to take place. And I think this kind of like speaks back to what I was saying early in the convo about like the challenge of casting that vision, right? Because in the midst of all this, like, you got to make money.
Yeah.
You got to run the business. And you can't just sit around and talk about your dreams and your ambitions all day, you know? So it's like, how do you feather in these conversations with your team?
And how are you also feathering in, so to speak, and making sure that the core values and the principles that you guys are trying to operate with and within are transitioning to each and every person within the company and as you grow?
Right. It's a daily check-ins. I mean, it's like it's talking to the people you work with nonstop, you know? And what I've found is with these guys, like the more that you invest in them in terms of like, hey, not just, hey, are you done with your job? I need your notes so I can build this thing. It's a check-in on their personal lives, you know? How are you doing today? How's your family? Do you need anything? Well, if like they seem off, like, hey buddy, what's going on? You know, let's talk.
Yeah.
You know? And I think like I got some advice early on whenever I was talking to a mentor about the challenge of this, and the challenge just being people, you know? And this mentor was just like, you are nothing without your people. And like that hit me like a ton of bricks, because it's true. Like, I'm not the licensed plumber.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really like I'm trying to steward the opportunity and the people to the best of my ability. And long story short, that's my recruiting pitch right now. It's, hey, we're building something special, and if you want to be a plumber, great, we've got a job for you. But like, I'm really looking for the guys that see the value in building a small business and building it into something special that they can be a part of, and I think most importantly, put their fingerprints on, you know? Because like, we didn't start the business with processes and procedures. We're writing them as we go, literally.
Yeah.
You know, so taking their feedback, looking at their notes and the software that we use, and like on water heater replacements, like making changes to ensure like, hey, yeah, whenever we're doing these bids, we should probably have a checklist of these basic items that go on every water heater, like a flood stop, you know, basic stuff, you know? And so I think just, and then once you take their feedback and you add it to what you're doing, circling back and letting them know how meaningful that was to the business operation itself, you know?
Yeah, everybody's a part of the team. Everybody's communicating as a team. Everybody's being rewarded as a team.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's huge. Like, it can get very transactional.
Yeah.
You know, there's, you know, but when you're putting an emphasis on building a team, building something greater, for everybody to be a part of, and showing them that, and everybody starts getting aligned on that vision, man, that's where you truly grow and have a lot of success.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
I hope to see a lot more of this. I mean, like across the board, whether that's HVAC, whether that's electrical, whether that's trim carpenters, framers, you know, like your concrete guys, like when you can start putting that kind of vision and passion behind it,
right,
that's when you build great things.
Yeah. Where do you, from your perspective, like where do you feel like the biggest opportunity is in the trades for someone in my position outside of plumbing? And
outside of
why?
what?
Outside of plumbing, and why? What's your biggest pain point right now?
As a GC, man, that's hard to say. That's a really good question. I think there's such a deficit in good leadership and companies that are built and put together with the right core values and the right support and the caring, and to where you really have that kind of organic growth.
Yeah.
And can do those things that, I mean, you could easily, you know, have Trinity Valley Plumbing, Trinity Valley Electrical, Trinity Valley HVAC. I mean, the blueprint doesn't change. Like, you're figuring out all the things that it takes to build a great company. And while you may be small, look at how much you've done in such a short period of time. And I mean, I think you already hit the nail on the head, so to speak, in that it's not just plumbing that there's a huge deficit of skilled trade workers. I mean, this is an issue, like I just said, from, especially when you start talking about like the different levels of it. I mean, you can find Joe Blow that can do a handyman type job. But when you start talking about custom homes or level 5 finishes,
yeah,
you know, stuff like that, I mean, there's a lack of really skilled framers, trim carpenters, drywallers,
yeah,
painters, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, I mean, roofing.
Right.
I mean,
right.
They're roofing's probably the one exception. I mean, there are
so many
like
places.
something like 300,000 roofers in DFW alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they come and go every day.
Right.
Like, I mean, yeah, you have the big boys, but like, I mean, dude,
right,
someone's starting a roofing company, like several people are starting a roofing company like every day in
right,
DFW.
Right.
Like, it is an ungodly. I forget what the number was, but it was something really stupid.
Yeah.
But like, actual really skilled roofer, and I'm not talking about the guy that can go do the, you know, the 612 pitch 3-tab or architectural shingle that's, you know, your standard cookie cutter roof job.
Yeah.
What about the expert TPO,
right,
the, you know, the modified bitumen, you know, all these specialty roofing systems that are coming out, and all the conversions of the tar and gravel roofs, and, you know, where you really have water penetration issues, you have flashing details, you have caps, and all these like very technical things that you need someone that's an expert at some of those things.
Yeah.
So how do we start getting more Connors out there, to me, is what's important, that see the value in each one of these trades,
yeah,
and then have that kind of vision to really grow something and be that passionate and care about it, and to make some of those jobs sexy again, to where, like, you know, we've talked about it, like, you know, my generation and your generation, I mean, you and I are about 10 years apart. Mm-hmm. And neither of our generations was it the wanting to go out and do the hard manual labor jobs.
Right.
It was go to college, you know, maybe you went to the military instead, but something like that. Everybody wanted to be doctors, lawyers, or businessmen, salesmen, entrepreneurs,
Right.
you know, or they're into technology. I mean,
Right.
those were the big fields.
Right.
And these other fields, it's not been shown that they could be just as successful.
Right.
I mean, plumbing is dirty work
Right.
the majority of the time. Like, I would say there's like, well, I don't know, what would you say? 30% of plumbing is not dirty work and 70% is dirty work?
I wouldn't even say that much.
Okay, so
It's
more.
it's all dirty. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, a lot of it's dirty work. So like, I mean, literally, you're dealing with human waste and stuff like that on the daily. That's
Yeah.
not fun. Like, how do you make that fun and sexy? And like, you know, unless it's like, you know, and not to just make it money driven either. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I've said this before. I think the next millionaires for your kids' generation is all going to be highly skilled tradespeople.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of them. It's not going to just be the technology with AI and everything else is going to get so far advanced that that field's going to shrink.
Right.
You're going to have the really elite people that do and deal with technology, and then everybody else is just users of technology.
Right.
And then when it comes to the trades, someone has to step up there. And I mean, doctors and lawyers, I mean, like, you're always going to have those. But these tradespeople, that's where if you can go and get really skilled with that, I think you're going to be the ones that can be the next millionaires for your family, building great companies like what you're building here. But it's going to take a lot more Connors making that appealing and showing that, like, hey, you can have a great company and something you're really proud of and happy of in a trade like this.
Right.
Because not a lot of people are going to come out and talk about it and make it sound like a good thing. I mean, like, it's a lot harder, especially plumbing.
Yeah. Right.
HVAC, probably a little easier sell. Electrical,
Kinda.
I mean, I'm scared to death of getting shocked or electrocuted. Like,
Yeah. I never.
I
touch
mean, like,
electrical.
so, like, I don't want to fuck with electrical. I mean,
Right.
I'm the guy that is changing out a ceiling fan and I'm shutting the breaker panel off, even
Yeah.
though I did that for a living for a little while.
Right.
Like, I'm not getting shocked.
Right. But you know, like, I wouldn't even say that HVAC is an easier sell, because think about the working conditions for HVAC techs
It's hot.
in Texas. Like, whether
It's hot. It's
whether
really
you're
hot or really cold.
You're on a roof or you're in an attic.
Yeah.
Anytime from April through November.
I mean, you make a fair point. I think it would be easier to sell that than, hey, go stand in shit and dig in a tunnel and crawl under a house.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe.
probably a little easier to sell.
It's two different breeds of guys. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
but I mean, you have those people. But then again, showing them the value of that, and hey, if you become a master at this,
Right.
and you grow a business,
Right.
this is what you can do.
Right.
And showing them the full side of it. And I think that's something that you're doing that is great, is you're not just showing them the path to becoming a master plumber. You're showing them that path and saying, hey, there's other parts of the business that once you do this or get your feet wet and you know what you're talking about, and you
Right.
know what you're doing,
Right.
maybe your God-given gift is not being Mr. Master Plumber there, but maybe you're actually better at selling
Right.
or building relationships. So maybe you have that experience, that knowledge now. That's going to make the selling part easier, because you can go in there, see the plans, really know what's going on. You can bid it better. You can talk more knowledgeably about it.
Right.
And that might be an easier sell than you trying to learn plumbing and trying to go in there and do that. Like,
Yeah.
even though you have the connections and the networking, that guy, but you can show him that missing piece.
Right.
So I think the fact that you're combining those things and really putting that vision out there
Yeah.
and tying it in with y'all's values is what is going to make you guys even more successful down there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the hope. That's the dream.
Yeah. What did you think starting out was going to be like the toughest part of this? Like, what, besides the phone not ringing, what, like, kept you up? Like, what were you really like, man, this could be the thing?
Figuring out the cash flow, for sure. The expenses in a trade business like plumbing are a lot. You know, like you've got a decent amount of overhead. You've got to have plumbers on staff. You've got to have vehicles. You've got to have tools. You've got to have equipment. You have to have materials. So I would just say figuring out the cash flow, partnering with customers that are going to pay you in a decent time frame, and ensuring you don't get over leveraged with those that won't. You know, and then I'd just say, like, for me personally, it was the mechanical expertise of learning the craft. You know,
yeah. Being knowledgeable so you can really sell
I'm
it.
a quick learner, but I'm not a plumber. You know,
Yeah.
so luckily I had a background in estimating prior to starting the company. You know, so I had the opportunity in my previous life to break projects down and to know how to estimate material and labor, supervision, etc. But, you know, I actually found that once you kind of got the hang of estimating and plumbing, it's really like there's the same types of fittings, but they're all in just various sizes and types of materials, right?
Right.
So it's not as complex as you might think it is. That took me probably 5-6 months, and like I'm still obviously learning.
It's probably figuring out the man hours and how long that job's going to take. I would think is going to be the harder part, because you're trying to allocate. I mean, I know I've learned a shit ton from our conversations of like, okay, why are these bids so far apart? Like, where are we at? And like, why are we doing this? How can we do this?
Right.
Is there a better way to attack this? And you and I have like very honest, open conversations like, all right, do we need the master here?
Right.
Like for X, Y, and Z, or just X?
Right.
All right, we need him for X. All right, cool. So for these hours and for this part of the job, I really just need the journeyman, and I can put an apprentice out here. All right, cool. Like let's tackle this project that way. Mm-hmm. But that's open, honest dialogue that not everybody has.
No.
Like, but that's what really makes a difference if you can do those things.
Right, totally. And a lot of it comes down to also who's estimating the job, right? Because there's many ways to plumb something, right? That's gonna, you know, result in the project being completed. But it's like, what's the combination of fittings and the length of pipe that you're using to get there, right? So we've got 3 journeymen and 1 master on the team. All 4 of them estimate differently, right? All of them plumb differently, you know? So what I try to do is if someone estimates a certain project and we win it, I'm putting that person back on that project. And I had an issue just before we started the pod today where someone was on an after-hours call that started at 4 o'clock today, and he inherited a takeoff from one team member that estimated it yesterday, and that person didn't do the takeoff the way that the plumber that was doing the install today would have done it. So therefore, he's trying to figure out, can I actually do this install? He's having to go through and look at it from the eyes of someone else that bid it before him. You know, so it's just it's changing at all times, man. It's just funny how you get varying opinions on doing these estimates, doing these takeoffs, but I would definitely say that's what kept me up at night. It's like, okay, we started a plumbing business. I don't know anything about plumbing, you know? And there was a time where, like, we actually started the business in late October, but we didn't start plumbing operations until early December. And from October 20th to December 1st, like, I wasn't talking to many people. Not many people knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just in my thoughts a lot about, like, okay, like, yeah, you've taken a big step here, and there's a lot of opportunity for this to pay off because of all the things we've talked about with the demand and the shortage of labor. However, if you can't execute, you don't have a business. So I think it was incumbent on me at that point to dive in head first, join the guys in the field as much as possible, join them on takeoffs for projects or project walks for upcoming bids, and ask as many questions as I possibly can. And it's like I'm back in school all over again, you know?
Yeah.
I've got a lot to learn. And what I'm enjoying learning the most about right now is boilers. We've done a lot of boilers this year, which has been cool. Those are big projects, big replacements. For those that don't know what they are water heater system replacements for multifamily communities that heat anywhere from 50 to a couple hundred units. So when a boiler is down, they're screaming at you to get it fixed.
The world is ending.
And, we do a lot of repairs. Our journeymen are all three very competent boiler repair techs. They've gone to classes for it. Our master has done a great job of teaching them how to troubleshoot these boilers. I've got one guy that we call the boiler whisperer, because if the other two can't figure it out, we'll send him, and he'll get it every time. Even if it's just to get it up and running for a few days before the replacement can come in.
Yeah.
But those are complex systems, and they're costly systems. Those replacements range anywhere from 30 to 60,000, just depending on how big they are. So it's not an easy thing for an owner and a management group to spend that money. I really pride ourselves on the fact that we're really good at those installs, and we're very competent at them. And we stand behind those installs as well. And so,
yeah, a boiler can make or break you right there.
Yeah, and if you do the install poorly, you lose on it immediately, because you're out there doing warranty calls, troubleshooting it for days, weeks.
Absolutely. And
it's such a competitive bid space between myself and my competitors, because that's not like a service call. That's a bid project. You only mark it up a certain amount because they're so expensive. And you better be right with the labor that you put on it, because if you go in too heavy, you're going to blow yourself out of the water and not get the business. However, if you go in too skinny and you're on the install for 2 days, you're losing money.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to get in, get out. It's got to be efficient. You've got to have all the right parts. And if that thing doesn't fire, it's on you.
Yeah, it's definitely risky with boilers. Even on the rental side, when you have to bring in for some of these big facilities or a large community, while you might be waiting on the replacement to come in, that's a huge business as well.
Right.
I had my buddy Nathan on here a while ago where, they've got chillers and everything else on semi trucks that they'll come out and hook up and run your system while you wait for whatever to be repaired or replaced. So, right. There's so many opportunities in that stuff. What's maybe a failure that happened early on that you learned a really good lesson from? Or maybe it was just a roadblock that you hit that lesson was very pivotal for you.
I think being too aggressive from a scheduling standpoint. We've been really lean. We started with 2 journeymen and 1 master. We added the 3rd journeyman, but while it was just the 2, we went through the freeze this February. And those guys worked 80-hour weeks, 2 weeks in a row. And the way the freeze kind of hit this year is we had a freeze 1 week, thawed out for a week, and then we had another freeze. And you've got to what I learned then is quit looking at every opportunity you need to go out and grab every piece of revenue that you can. Be realistic about what you can do, and be responsible with your team's well-being at the same time, because these guys they're on board to build the business.
Yeah,
and
don't burn them out.
They're not going to say no.
Yeah.
They're there, and they're there to their own detriment almost, right? And they'll wear themselves out because they'll just say yes. So I think, from my perspective is not being too aggressive. I woke up this morning and I looked at the schedule for one of our guys, and he had to finish the emergency repair that I told you about earlier in the show from last night. And then he had his normal schedule that was already there from the day before. And then he already had an after hours call on him for the end of the day. And I called him and I was like, we got to do something about this. You can't do all this. And he was like, thank you so much. I need a break, and don't forget, he was out until midnight last night on that call. And he's on call this week. So it's kind of like it's his turn. However, just because he's on call doesn't mean he needs to be on call every night.
And he's going to suffer.
Yeah. Because, I hope my theme here is like pretty easy to read. Like, I'm nothing without the plumbing team, And so the last thing you want to do if you're in my shoes is burn the team out. You need them happy and focused and energized and rested and healthy in order to be effective in their jobs, So I just definitely say don't be too aggressive. And I learned that the hard way. Burned a few of the guys out a couple days in a row. And it was almost like in my lack of experience, I was like, well, these calls aren't going to be there waiting for us tomorrow. And I've learned how to have those conversations of, hey, this is a really important call and we have to get there today. This one is an important call, but it could wait until tomorrow. And like being able to size those things up. But as we were starting, everything was just coming at us so fast. It was like, let's get it all because we're thrilled they're calling us, And I quickly realized like there's other plumbers in DFW, obviously, but they're not as quick to respond as we are because they're not as flexible as we are because they're not as lean as we are, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I've been able to kind of understand like, okay, well, I'm going to get to this as fast as I can, but since your resident has a second bathroom or a second shower they can use in the meantime, I'm going to come tomorrow afternoon instead of tonight. Therefore, I'm not going to charge you an after hours rate. And therefore, I'm going to keep the guys to where they're not working 14-hour days, day after day, That's been
Makes
a big learning
sense,
curve.
man. I mean, did you have to do that with your CRM too? Because, man, this dude's CRM used to be on blast, man. Like, you could tell Connor came from the sales side when they first started. I was like, bro, you have to calm your AI robot or whatever down. You are email blasting the shit out of me.
Yeah.
My bad.
Well, that's kind of like what I love about entering into the trades right now is like it's a space that lacks technology, right?
For sure.
And I came out hot and heavy, especially with you, but like I've learned there's certain things that I want to have follow-ups on and there's certain things I don't. When I'm working with a GC like you that is doing this day in and day out, I'm not going to have those types of follow-up alerts. But in my software, I do have the ability to customize it to where if I'm working with a homeowner or a commercial building owner that maybe it's just a one-off project, I do like to utilize those things and they're helpful.
Absolutely.
And something that's honestly really cool is there's also like AR follow-up. So if an invoice is 2 days from being due, it'll send out an alert to the customer and say, hey, just an FYI, this is due 48 hours from now. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from customers. They're saying, hey, FYI, I cut a check for this today. You'll have it by Friday, So that's been beneficial. But I did tone back the CRM just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do want to continue like pressing into that because there is a lack of sophistication in our collective space with technology. And like, I'm trying to figure out what's that healthy balance of utilizing AI in our business and utilizing the new tech that's available to us. And something that I love about our business is the ease that we have with estimating, scheduling. We partner with a field service software called Jobber. and it's built for home service contractors. And so we're kind of stretching it, using it in the commercial and multifamily space, but it's still very doable for us. And like writing estimates has never been easier. It's been awesome. And like there's like your 10, repetitive projects you have, right? And for me, it's in-ground leaks, let's say like tunneling, for sewer replacements. Like we've done boiler repairs, boiler replacement,
water
heater, like you name it. It's all out there, right? So like I have templates for those things.
Yeah.
And the scopes of work are templatized. And then I get the call, and then I just have to update, okay, what's the correct number of labor hours? What's the correct number or amount for materials? Is there a permit involved? No? Okay, press send. Boom. And of course, like there's custom estimates that I write every day too, but working in a software like that has been hugely beneficial for us to scale, because I'm not chained to my desk all day writing estimates. Writing estimates is a part of my day, but it's not all of my day. And like in my former work life, it just dominated my role because estimating is time consuming, so any time you can find margin and give that back to, whether it's with speaking with your team or speaking with your clients, and you're in our position, you absolutely want that, right? So that's what we found, and we're really happy with that so far.
Right on, man. How have you approached balancing all this with a family life? Because you got 2 young ones at home. How have you managed to do that? And any advice you have for young entrepreneurs that are trying to balance a brand new company, as you guys are 7-8 months in, and you're also balancing a family life?
It's crazy to say.
Not that you didn't just get a vacation. I'm not jealous.
Just got back from the beach. It was a great week on the beach. Shout out to the team for holding down the fort while I was away. They did amazing. It probably sounds kind of crazy to say this, but I'm actually more present at home now than I ever have been. So in my former role, I traveled to Austin, Houston, San Antonio quite a bit.
Yeah.
Staying in the Marriott 100 nights a year for a couple years in a row. Like, I've got young kids. My kids are 7 and 4 right now. One's about to be in 2nd grade. The other one's last year preschool. So we're in that season where it's like pivotal that I'm home right now. And what's really cool is, like, ever since we started the business, I've slept in my own bed every night. I have an amazing teammate and my wife, who has been my biggest encourager ever since we started the business. And she remains to be, even whenever I have late nights and I'm away. But I think, like, what's been rewarding about this is, yes, I probably am more stressed out now than I ever have been, but it's a different type of stress. I'd like to think it's kind of a healthy stress, if there is that, because it's more of like a stress to provide for the team and the company. But I've also I think, had enough other stressful jobs at this point in my career to where I realize, like, life is short, and I'm not going to sacrifice these years I have with my kids right now, so I'm going to do everything I can to where, like, okay, I'm home at 5 or 6 and I'm dad from 5 or 6 until 9 when the kids are in bed.
Yeah.
And if I get to, if I have to work after that, I have to work after that. And, like, first 6 months of starting the business, like, I was working every night, and that was just that, but that's what I signed up for, and that's what I wanted. And we're just now at a point where we've brought on a few new team members that, like, we're starting to kind of, like, spread that load, and I'm able to delegate a little bit, and I'm starting to get some time back, which is really rewarding. And I'm starting to focus on more, like, strategy. Don't get me wrong, I'm still in the weeds every day. However, I am starting to get that reprieve, and I see, like, a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, So, I just, balancing family life is honestly, like, it's come easy, and I think it's just, I'm really blessed to have a family that was excited to support me in starting this. And it's not me that's doing the business. It's me and my family. Yeah, it's a family business, you know, and that goes for everyone that's involved at Trinity. You know, I know I haven't met all of my the guys' spouses, but I know them by name, you know, and like I ask them about their spouses and their kids, and you know, they ask me about my family, you know, so it's like we take a lot of pride in that. And like, what's the point of working as hard as we work if we're not going to enjoy the people that we love, you know? So
right on, man.
Yeah, it's just been like a new season of like learning to be present, you know, for us, and it's been really like just rewarding and peaceful.
All right, let's do some fun stuff. We've had a lot of serious talk.
What you got?
So you've been in multifamily long enough. What's your most bizarre or crazy multifamily story? These are always fun.
That came to me immediately.
Yeah, I knew it would. It does for everybody.
Have you ever heard of Alicio Urban Center?
All right, it's been long enough. We can say that.
Can we talk about that?
We can talk about that. All right, yep, I've heard of it.
Then you probably know what I'm about to tell you. So that was one of the sites that I was providing building materials at 10, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, okay? So I walk in, you know, I go grab keys, and I'm doing takeoffs, I'm doing blind measurements, I'm doing faucet, door hardware measurements, counts, all that stuff. And I walk into a unit, and I complete the counts, and then I walk back in the living room, and I'm like, is that a door leading into the next unit? And then I look through, and I realized that there was 4 apartment units that had been conjoined into one single unit, and like whoever rented them intentionally rented all 4 right next to each other, and then took it upon themselves to do the demo. And he had one massive apartment that was 4 kitchens, 4 master baths. I had never seen anything like it.
That's wild. I didn't even know about
Really?
that out there.
Yeah, it's there.
That property had so
That's
many
crazy.
wild stories and things with that property.
What's yours?
I have a couple, and I've told both of them on here, I think, at least once or twice. My very first fire I went on, both of mine are fire stories for multifamily. The very first fire I went on, it was the upper left unit that was the source of the fire, right? Where the origin was, the fire. And I'm walking up with my boss and said client, who may or may not follow the show. And the guys are literally demoing out the units, right? Trash dumpster is right in front of the origin fire. And as we're walking up, the dumpster is pretty damn full. Like, they really need to wait until that one gets hauled off and the next one comes out, but they're still trying to put as much stuff in there as they can, right?
Right.
And right as we're sitting there lighting up cigarettes and watching this demo going on and talking about the fire, two of the guys heave-ho a dishwasher from the unit out off the balcony into the dumpster, and when it hits, it opens up and dildos go flying everywhere. I mean, I'm talking like 30, 40 dildos of every shape, color, size you can imagine. Like, apparently it was sex toy cleaning day for the person in that unit, because, I mean, dildos just went flying everywhere. And I mean, the hilarity of it, and just the look, the look on all our faces had to be priceless. And then the guys, like, they didn't obviously open it up before they threw it out there, and then they're standing there, we're standing there, and like everybody just busted up laughing. The other one that's close to that is I was doing a big fire real close to the border, and when we went in and started walking the origin unit with the adjuster and stuff, and it was our first time in there, really just trying to get what was going on. We're trying to figure out origin, what we can touch, what we can't touch, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to help out with everything after the board up. And whatever this dude was into was some really weird shit. And there were candles. I mean, like, this looked like you remember the movie The Crow?
Yeah.
They had like the seance type room where there's just candles everywhere.
Yeah.
So the bedroom is like that, but that's not where the fire started. The fire started in the bathroom, from what we can tell. And there's candles all over the countertop and everything. But when you walk in and then stand back and look from the master in there, you can realize, like, I think what happened, I don't know the official ruling on it, but I think one of those candles in his magic moment caught the hand towel on fire, and then that just went berserk and like blew up the whole room. But he obviously was in a compromised experience and had to get out of there really fast because his baby oil bottle was melted to the counter, and the blow-up doll was like perfectly melted, like folded down from the countertop down the vanity.
No.
A lot of sex in his experience.
Yeah, like that's the two that come to mind right out the gate that was like, wow.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, you always, like, you have those moments in multifamily where you never know what you're going to find behind some of these doors.
Same property.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't know.
And like the way that you see some people live, it's outrageous.
Oh, dude,
you know?
It's amazing. It's even worse when I worked in insurance and did residential.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed what people let you into their house and see. Unbelievable. But the other one that comes to mind, you remember, I don't know, you're 10 years younger than me. I don't know if this was still a thing. Do you remember recorders in elementary school?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So everybody had to get this recorder. You know what this is, Biz? Like the little flute?
I know what a recorder
All right.
my son has, but yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm scared it's going to be sexual in there.
It kind of is.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm walking this unit, and this property, it's a college town. They've got these huge, they have this one floor plan that is a 4-bedroom, massive apartment, right?
Okay.
Like, and you can tell the college kids that got these, man, this was party fucking central.
Okay.
Right? Like, so I start walking to this down unit. There's condom wrappers all over the floor. There's a sex swing still half tied up in the like ceiling in one of these rooms. There's just school shit, college shit everywhere, right? And I'm taking photos of this shit and like sending it back to the guys like, holy shit, look at this. Like, this is wild. Like, I'm not touching anything.
Right.
And everybody's like commenting and stuff.
Right.
Well, in the middle of one of these rooms, I find a brand new recorder. Like, it's got the little special case. I open it up, the recorder's in it and everything. And I'm like, oh, this is funny. So I take it, right?
Okay.
Probably shouldn't have done that, but I did. I took the recorder.
Okay.
I go back to one of my estimators and put it on his desk with a little sticky note on it that says, I guess you left this at band camp.
Okay.
Damn.
And a day later, I am at another job site walking with a client stuff, and this estimator is blowing up my phone.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, he found the recorder, right? Like, he's blowing my phone up.
Yeah.
And he's about to get married. Like, he's like 2 months out from his wedding.
Okay.
And I finally get out of the meeting and I get back to my truck and I go to my messages, and I've got like 12 messages, right? Like, he has left 2 to 3 minute long messages, like tapped them out each time, and I have like 12 of them. I start listening to him, and he's playing full songs on the flute. Like, full on playing songs. And I was just like, oh my God, he didn't really, like, he put that thing in his mouth. Like, oh my God, like, how do I tell him this? So I just sent him back a text and I was like, hey bro, that was just supposed to be a joke, and like throw the damn thing away. Like, I really wasn't expecting you to put that in your mouth and play it. Please at least tell me you cleaned it. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, of course not. Like, it looked brand new. I'm like, well, remember the unit I sent you all the pictures of 2 days ago?
Right.
Yeah. I found that in the middle of that unit, and man, you talk about panic attack and freaking out.
Yeah.
Man, how am I going to explain this? Like, do I need to go get tested? Like, all this stuff. Like, we died laughing for days, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's
tested.
the other class. Yeah, I don't know, but it was one of those classic ones. All right, man, I want to be super respectful of your time. It's been a blast sitting here getting to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
So, we do 2 questions at the end of every show.
Okay.
So, the first one I like to do is, if you got to leave your kids with one piece of advice, what would you leave them with?
Be fearless. Don't worry about what others think about you, and chase your dreams.
Right on. Good advice. All right, the next one's just a fun one. Because the show's called Common Sense, we like to give everybody an opportunity to give us their 2 cents.
Okay.
So this can be something I didn't ask you, something on your mind, or it could just be Connor giving the listeners of Common Sense his 2 cents. Mike's yours.
You know, I think it's just the perfect way to wrap this up by stating, like, lean into your network. There's so many people in your phone that you've either talked to every day or haven't talked to in years. And don't be afraid to reach out and connect with people, tell them about what's going on in your life, ask them about theirs, and find a way to position yourself to be a resource for them, because you never know what's going to happen and what's behind that door, right? And like, that's just kind of what I've lived through this past year. And it kind of goes back to that first question, like, be fearless. Don't worry about what people are thinking about you. Just move forward with the contacts you have in front of you, and you'll find that, like, people want to help you and people want to be a part of building cool things, whether it's physically being a part of it or just sitting across from you in a podcast wanting to talk about fun times, you know?
Right on, man. Well, dude, much love for you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming and doing this and sharing your story with everybody. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this show. We will be back again next week. We're going to wrap up a show on Thursday right before you guys head into the holiday weekend. So I hope you guys will join us. I'm sure a lot of you will be off. So hopefully that means more of you can join us and enjoy the show. Until then, peace.